believe in the Messiah, son of Joseph, probably existed at least from the time of the Second Temple, but only in recent times has it been seriously related to him. The Messiah, son of Joseph, is considered to be from the tribe of Joseph, and the USA represents a major part of the tribe of Joseph, especially of Manasseh. The USA is dominated by Manasseh, though many of its inhabitants are from Ephraim. And Messiah, son of Joseph, according to most opinions, will be from the tribe of Ephraim. The Messiah, son of Joseph, will be pro-Jewish. He will help save Judah from its oppressors. He will take vengeance from these oppressors. He will take vengeance from these oppressors. He will help the Jews return to the land of Israel and rebuild it. Messiah, son of Joseph, is a real person in the historical process. It's a bit like the French Revolution and Napoleon. You had the French Revolution that came before Napoleon. But Napoleon grew up in it. He was an officer in the army belonging to the leaders of the French Revolution. And the French Revolution had prepared the way for him. It had released energies. It had released concepts. It had led the way, enlightened the public. And Napoleon institutionalized many of the reforms and attitudes that the revolution had begun. Napoleon helped spread them throughout Europe and the world. So too, the Messiah, son of Joseph, is to say to a certain degree of preparing the way for the Messiah, son of David. Though he himself has a task of his own, of value in its own right. Many rabbis in recent times, that is the last 100 years, 200 years, they saw the Messiah, son of Joseph, as building up the land. The movement of Zionism, of rebuilding the land, was considered to be an aspect of the Messiah, son of Joseph. Theodor Herzl, the Zionist leader, was sometimes considered a foreshadowing, one could say, of the Messiah, son of Joseph. And they were aiming to help the Jews return to the land and setting up an infrastructure for it. The rabbis of Rabbi Kook, Rabbi Abraham Kook, and his followers, they tend to think along these lines, and their successors still do. There are great rabbis now amongst the national religious sector who think along these terms and write books on it. Meanwhile, the British, after World War II, they gave the area of Palestine that they had liberated from the Turks, from the Ottoman Turks, they gave it over to the Mandate, that is a polity under their control, that would enable Jews to return to the land and would develop the land. And they laid the infrastructure for this land. And from 1914 to 1945, the Jewish population increased from about 50,000 or less, or more, maybe up to 60,000, but not that much more. And it increased to 600,000, at least 10 times as much. This was despite vacillations, changes of heart. There were British administrators or the British soldiers who were against the Jews, who favoured the Arabs, or the British politicians in London, who had changes of heart, who changed their mind, wanted to change their mind, change the policies, and were anti-Jewish at times, but nevertheless, on the whole, the overall tendency, the overall guiding principle was to help the Jews create their country, create the infrastructure of a country, to create cities, townships, and electricity works, and water works, and agricultural enterprises, and factories, providing employment both for Jews and for Arabs, the skeleton of a working army, a working modern army. And that's what the British did. That's what the British helped the Jews do. So that when in 1948 the Jews had to fight for their life against Arab armies and the local Arabs rebelling against them, they were able to defeat them and to go on defeating them and to build up the state. They had done this Like it or not, despite everything, they had done this money by virtue of the British having helped them. So the British, in this sense, had also played the role of Messiah, son of Joseph. And the British, dominated by Israelites, who did not know of the Israelite origin from the tribe of Ephraim. So they too had played the role of Messiah, son of Joseph, in their own way. After the Jews in Israel became independent, for a while the USA and France helped them, and then it was the USA helping all the time. Before the establishment of the State of Israel, we had the Holocaust, when the Germans and a good portion of the Europeans had attempted to exterminate the Jews. And it had been the British and the Americans, even especially the Americans, who had helped liberate the Jews, free the Jews, that defeated the Axis, the Germans and their allies, and that liberated the camps and let the Jews go back, or go free at least, and save their lives, and prosecuted their oppressors, in some cases killing them, in other cases letting them walk away, but at least prohibiting them, proscribing them. That was the USA and the British who did this. The Russians also did much of it, but that is a different study, a different question. The major agents in doing this were people from the tribes of Joseph, the British and the Americans, no shoots of the British, such as the Canadians, who are very important, also the Australians and others. Judah, the bottom line was that Judah was rescued with the help of sons of Joseph, fulfilling one of the roles of the Messiah, son of Joseph. Messiah, son of Joseph is both a process and a person. It will be a person who will come to fulfill the process, to embody it, to personify it. The process in many cases will have begun well before him. He will carry it forward. The USA was the first country to recognize the provisional government of the State of Israel upon its founding in 1948. And it has always been a help to the State of Israel. Israel has received hundreds of millions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. Also, U.S. commitment to Israel's security and the country's shared foreign policy and interests. Israel is a leading buyer of U.S. weapon systems via traditional arms sales. And the money for this, for the arms that Israel buys from the USA, is mainly from what the USA has given it. All USA aid today goes to support Israel's defense, its arms systems. In the past, the money was also given to Israel's economy, but for some time now, Israel's economy has managed under its own stream. But for defense, Israel has remained dependent on assistance from America. And this aid continued and it increased. But sometimes there was a price attached to it. Israel was often forced to curtail its activities, not to attack the Arabs whenever they wished to do so, not to treat the Arabs under their control as firmly as they would have wanted to. In some cases, to give up territories that they had conquered, even on certain times, to give up lands that they had settled in, to evacuate settlements that they had built. The Jewish families had dedicated their lives towards developing. So there was a black and white all the way. It wasn't always easy, but it was better than nothing. It was enough to survive. Along came Donald Trump, and the climate has changed. President Trump and his team, they seem as dedicated to the good of Israel, the safety of Israel, and the safety of the Jews everywhere even as much as right-wing Israel. They identify with the cause of the Jewish people. They identify with the state of Israel. They speak on behalf of it. They speak well, they present it well, and they believe in it. And Trump is the leader of this group. These people are always there, but Trump has brought them together and empowered them. So there still is an action, a characteristic of the Messiah, son of Joseph. 15% of Israel's defense budget comes from the USA, or 15% or more. Israel also helps develop U.S. military systems, U.S. defense devices, improvements in tanks, improvements in airplanes, improvements in computers and cyber space and in intelligence. Israel has given a lot to the USA, or at least it's given something of significance. It's where, regarding this changing climate, this positive changing climate, it's worth reading, quickly reading a declaration by Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State in Trump's administration, March 1st, 2025. He says, I will sign a declaration to use emergency authorities to expedite the delivery of approximately $4 billion in military assistance to Israel. The decision to reverse the Biden administration's partial arms embargo, which strongly withheld a number of weapons and ammunition from Israel, is yet another sign that Israel has no greater ally in the White House than President Trump. Since taking office, the Trump administration has approved nearly $12 billion in major FMS sales to Israel. This important decision coincided with President Trump's repeal of a Brit-Am memorandum, which had imposed baseless and politicized conditions of military assistance to Israel at a time when our close ally was fighting a war of survival on multiple fronts against Iran and terror proxies. The Trump administration will continue to use all available tools to fulfill America's long-standing commitment to Israel's security, who remains to counter security threats. Not only Israel, but other countries have also been helped by the USA. For that matter, nearly all countries in the world have been assisted by the USA at some time or other. The UK and USA have both fulfilled aspects associated with Joseph, with the Messiah, son of Joseph. This has come to a head under President Trump. And President Trump is proud of his efforts for Israel. The same applies to the people's The same applies to the personalities around the president. Under President Trump, the USA has recognized the Golan Heights as non-occupied Israeli sovereign territory. It's also recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. It has moved its embassy there from Tel Aviv in 2018. UK and USA together represent Joseph. They fought against Germany in World War I and World War II. Germany is often associated with Edom, though it could be any number of other countries, depending on the circumstances. Edom was sent from Esau. Esau and Jacob were twin brothers, the sons of Isaac, and Jacob took the blessing of the first right from Esau, and Esau hated him ever after, but there's eternal enmity between Edom and Jacob. Jacob is also known as Israel. Jacob was the forefather of the 12 tribes of Israel. And Edom is his enemy. In some sources, there's suggested something of a connection between Edom and Messiah, son of Joseph. And this could reflect the fact that President Trump has some German ancestry, even though many of the people from Germany who went to the USA were of different stock. on the whole, for those who stayed behind, as we have spoken many times and explained this many times, and this has been proven by anecdotal evidence and different historical studies. Messiah, son of Joseph, is often associated with rebuilding the temple. How this will come about, we don't know. The Jews do not really want it, at least not at this stage. But you never know. Also, President Trump did move the embassy of the USA to Jerusalem, which is possibly a start in the right direction. President also, Messiah, son of Joseph, will help let those 10 tribes know that they are of Israelite ancestry. Will be the Messiah, son of David, who will let every Israelite know which special tribe they each belong to. But the process will have been begun by Messiah, son of Joseph. The Kol Torah, an important book, about 200 years ago, it speaks of the Messiah, son of Joseph, playing a leading role in bringing the Jews back to the land of Israel and building up the land. This is also the view of the Vilna Gaon, the great rabbi, and the Rabbi Cook. And the USA, in some way, has played its role in this, as Britain did. President Reagan helped the Jews of Ethiopia and the Jews of Russia to come to Israel. President Trump, in some ways, appears to be following in the steps of President Reagan. Should also note that the nations of the earth are often against the state of Israel. The UN condemned Israel 17 times. The rest of the world combined only received 6 condemnations. In this, dating from December 2024, the UN General Assembly had rebuked this total of condemnations by the UN up to 17, all against the state of Israel, compared to a total of 6 with the rest of the world combined. Israel on one hand, the rest of the world on the other. Israel on one hand, 6 condemnations against it, the rest of the world all together 6. Despite people eating each other, people killing each other, people massacring each other, people doing horrible things to each other day by day all over the world, only Israel is singled out, only Israel is condemned. And most of the time, the condemnations against Israel are not justified. They're often completely false or grossly exaggerated, and in the circumstances justified. But that is the reality. The world hates the Jews, hates the state of Israel. Only America in our time consistently stands with Israel. This is especially true under President Trump, who embodies on this point the Messiah, son of Joseph. A lot of material proving this point. Over and over again, we get the same overall conclusion. All the world, or nearly all the world, except for the USA, condemns the state of Israel, is against the state of Israel. And there are nations such as the UK who, yes and no, sometimes yes and sometimes no, is in the same situation, but it follows, when it comes, usually follows the American lead on this matter, and also they too have a residual respect for the state of Israel, for the Jewish existence in this area, as do other entities. At times, not always, not usually, but at times, such as France, Australia, and others. And other Israelite nations are as bad as the rest of the Gentiles. Other Israelite nations include Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, the Netherlands, Belgium, France, Switzerland, and the UK, the United Kingdom, and Ireland. Ireland is sometimes worse than worse than some of the non-Israelite nations. They said that in Ireland it is dangerous for a religious Jew to go out on the street with a kippah on his head. Also, even in the USA, recently Jewish students were widely targeted at US universities. They were physically intimidated for being Jewish. And this was due to the agitation of left-wingers and radical coloured people and others, left-wing activists or liberal activists, in some cases were funded by Arab money. President Trump and his team have taken action to protect the Jews. This is an aspect of the Messiah, son of Joseph. Messiah, son of Joseph, represents Joseph, who became like a Gentile. And the story of Joseph went down to Egypt. He was sold as a slave, and then he became the second in command of Pharaoh. The brothers who came down thought he was a Gentile. The Messiah, son of Joseph, represents Joseph, who became like a Gentile in order to reform the Gentiles from within. This was the opinion concerning the Messiah, son of Joseph, of Rabbi Moshe David Valley, 1697-1776, and also Rabbi Abraham Isaac Cook, 1865 to 1933. Joseph, under the Messiah, son of Joseph, will help protect and revenge Judah from its enemies. Abijah, the book of Abijah in the Bible says, then Savior shall come to Mount Zion to judge the mountains of Israel. The kingdom shall be the Lord. The kingdom shall be that of the Lord, and Savior shall come to Mount Zion. The Saviors in the plural, Messiah ben David, and Messiah ben Joseph. Saviors. It also refers to Edom and Egypt together working against Judah. Joel 3, it says, but Egypt shall be desolate from a desert waste because of violence done to the people of Judah, in whose land they shed innocent blood. And also in Ezekiel 25, beginning from verse 12, it says, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Because Edom took revenge on Judah and became very guilty by doing so. Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I will stretch out my hand against Edom, kill both man and beast. I will lay it waste, and from Teman to Dedan they will fall by the sword. I will take vengeance on Edom by the hand of my people Israel. They will deal with Edom in accordance with my anger and my wrath. They will know my vengeance, declares the sovereign Lord. The world is against Judah, but nevertheless President Trump and his team have up to now endeavored quite vigorously to help Israel and to contain anti-Semitism everywhere. Taking all of these points together, we get the impression that the Messiah, son of Joseph, is embodied in the USA, connected with the USA, and that President Trump may be the Messiah, son of Joseph. Even if he is not, he is a forerunner, he is a foreshadowing of him, is a preparation, one could say, for the Messiah, son of Joseph, when he does come. So we can only keep our eyes open. So we can only keep our eyes open and endeavor to do the best we can, to believe in God, to read the Bible, and to make the world a better place, both for ourselves, for our families, for our peoples, and for the sake of living in general. This is what we have. This is our lives. This is what God has given us. Thank you. May the Lord God of Israel bless you.